everyone, my name is Alicia Jackson, licensed professional counselor, and today we are going to review Ready to Love, season 5 technically, even though it's all a mess. We're just going to say Ready to Love Potomac, episode 1. Let's do that. So we are reviewing Ready to Love Potomac, episode 1, quality over quantity. As Nephew Tommy states, before they're used to doing 20 singles, he said, nope, we're just doing 14 and we're going to keep it moving. Before we get into it, of course, please subscribe to the channel, like the video, and share it with all Ready to Love groups that you know, Reddit, Facebook groups, all the groups, so that we can kind of learn and grow. As this channel, we are trying to learn about relationships and give information to help us navigate this crazy dating world, right? So thanks so much for liking and subscribing to the channel. Now let's get into it. So we have, we're meeting the new cast. We have Paul, who's 48 years old, and he said that he needs a woman with a sexual energy, but also with some substance because he wants the relationship to last forever. We see him interacting a little bit and mingling as the cast starts to slowly move in, and he meets Danica, and he said, oh, you're very beautiful. Is that your name? I said, oh, no, not the corny lines. But he's trying. So hopefully he means well, but I'm curious about how this is going to last. Like, the corny lines, as they can be nice, right, and endearing, and at the same time, there has to be some genuineness underneath there, too, to kind of balance it out, right? So Danica, we meet her. She's 39, and she says she is sick of swiping left and right, sick of the dating game, and she is vax and wax, which is becoming a thing, right? That everybody is claiming to be. And she says that she is looking to be open to this process and being ready to love. And so as she is talking with the men as they're coming in, she stated that, she's seen that it's kind of outnumbered. The women outnumber the men 10 to 1, and men like to have their sampler platters, and the men kind of chuckle about that. So we meet Tiffany. She's 37. She says she loves to touch and she loves to be touched. She is from the country, and so she loves to cook from scratch and make her man feel at home when he is coming home from work. We also meet Wiley, who's 32, and he is a former football player and a musician. He has a college football, so he's using a lot of sports terms as he's talking about navigating this process. But he's hoping that he can dispel the belief that sports players or football players are engaging with a lot of women. Okay. We did meet Fernando, who is 34, and he's from Baltimore. He said that chivalry is not dead with him, as his father taught him to be that way. He opened up a little bit and talked about his ex and how she didn't respect him, and she was unfaithful with other men in his house and was going on trips with other men without him to swinger resorts. And I was like, wait a second, what type of relationship was this? But I'm hoping that he could definitely meet someone who is going to respect him and cherish his feelings. And it seems like that was definitely not the case in this last relationship. We meet Keena, and she's 39. She said that she is a diva in a relationship and wants her man to lead, but she is going to be pulling strings from the background. And I was like, how does that happen? How can a man lead if someone's pulling the strings? And so I had so many questions about that. It sounds like she's still trying to maybe grapple with a man leading for real without her having a say. I think that there can be a way where there is open communication and there's a compromise, and there doesn't have to be strings being pulled or manipulation happening. And maybe that's something that Katina has to learn for herself. We meet Demetrius, who is 42, and he said he's been in the military for he's been in the military for 21 years, and he is retired now, and so he found like being in the military was being obstacle in his dating world because he was so focused on that. So now, after he's retired, now he wants to enjoy his life with somebody and connect that way. We meet Precious. She's 34 and she's looking for a man, she said, who is confident and sees value in loving and respecting her and also respecting himself. And we see where they're starting to kind of connect and mingle a little bit. Demetrius is connecting with Precious and she's leading him to a bench for them to talk. And she says, well, this is a metaphor of how it's going to be in our relationship, me leading the way. Like, what is up with this leading thing that's becoming a trend in this episode? So Demetrius said he's an outdoorsy kind of guy, so he hopes that, Precious is open to that. She said, yeah, if you're open to going to a pole dancing class with me. And he said, yes. So, hey, if he likes it, I love it. So then we see Sabrina. She's 36. We meet her, and she has a list. Her list was long on her phone, but what she did state is that she wanted someone who is consistent, considerate, loves Black people, and is hot AF. Okay. Laverne, we meet, and he is 44, and he said he used to bodybuild, and he really just wants someone who can not the finest person he used, like not a Beyonce or type, or just but someone who can really be for him and connect with him. That's what he's looking for. Then we meet Clifton, who is 44 years old, and he wants a woman like him. He said, just loud and likes to have fun. That's him. So then Tommy comes in. He introduces the show, and that there will be only 7 men and 7 women, and that makes everybody a little nervous because 2 people are going home. So the ratio is much smaller. And then the people start to, of course, the couple start to mingle a little bit more, and we see people trying, making little pods and connections. So Fernando pulls Joy to the side because he said he liked her green dress, and start off with this kind of awkward Q&A. And so by watching the interaction, it just looks like she wasn't, first initially attracted to him. And then also potentially the questions put her in a situation where she didn't want to really engage. Because she was, even though she said she felt like it was an interview, she wasn't asking him questions or wanting to get to know him more either. So it really seems like she just wasn't interested in him. But Joy, we meet her, and she is 44, and she is a professional singer. We see another interaction with Keena and Wiley, and he said that he actually prefers an older woman because he's 32. I think Keena is 39, and she said that, all the guys here are kind of nice, but Wiley is just not going to be the type of guy that I connect with. And so she kind of like dismisses herself from the conversation, like, I'm going to mingle and I'll see you later. And Wiley said, in his confession, that Keena is kind of blunt at times, but he kind of likes that, but didn't pick up good vibes from her. She seemed to kind of be really combative or like kind of one-upping in conversation. So he was talking about high school versus middle school, and he's teaching, I guess, in charter school, and she said, well, charter school, it doesn't matter, you can have a charter middle school or charter high school. I just wonder if she could like just get to know him without trying to correct him, or maybe she felt like she needed to correct him because he was younger. Who knows? But that was just something that I saw in the interaction there. So then we see Demetrius and Sabrina, and they have a very vulnerable connection, as Sabrina stated that she was, first attracted to Demetrius, and so they kind of go inside to get out of the sun. I guess it was really hot because everybody was mentioning it throughout the show. But Demetrius stated he was married for about 3 years, and that he took some ownership for being the reason why the marriage ended in divorce, because he wasn't secure in himself, and there was some unfaithfulness and infidelity in the marriage. And he went to therapy, and he's trying to be the best representation of himself in this state. And Sabrina shared that she got married, too young, and she didn't know what she wanted, and she went to therapy as well and realized that the marriage ending wasn't her failure or something she did wrong, but just that sometimes, marriage, it just doesn't work out. And both of them felt like a real genuine connection, as they both had similar stories. So we'll see how it goes. This show has lots of tricks and turns and all of that, so I'm not getting excited like I did last season with Walter and Sabrina. I'm not doing it. So then we see Paul and Precious, and Paul introduced himself as P.O. and she was like, "You mean Popo?" He said, "Oh no, like post office, because I deliver." But okay. Paul seems to be rubbing the ladies the wrong way with these generic corny lines. Even Joy said, like, "You mean like Grubhub?" And that helped me quite a bit, because I was getting a little annoyed with these lines, and it comes off very just unsincere. It's just it's insincere, and it's not genuine. And so I'm hoping Paul can get it together. But then we see it keeps going. Okay, so then there's the interaction with Ace. And she talks about how she was married and divorced. And then he's like, oh, let me just stop you right there. So what were you just saying? You was married for one day and then it was just over? You didn't give it a chance? And then asked her if she was intimidated by it was like, he didn't seem to have an ear to try to understand what she was going through. It seemed like he was judging her or jumping to conclusions about her because she was divorced, and not trying to understand her story or who she was. I mean, who knows? The man who she could have been in a relationship with could have been like emotionally abusive. And so she ended the relationship. But you don't know that, because you're jumping to conclusions that she just quit the relationship. It's like, whew. And then Paul said in his confessional that she just seems so guarded. I'm like, I wonder why. Because you're attacking her. You're judging her because she was divorced. No, you don't see it? Okay. So Ace asked him if he was ready to love, and he said, it's not if I'm ready to love, but if it's ready for me. And I said, oh man. So I don't know. I'm getting vibes that Paul is feeling like he is the total package, because he called himself the Lion King. Oh, he said the Lion King ain't got nothing on him. That's what he said. So I'm getting the sense that potentially he feels like he has it all together, and that any woman that's coming into his world has to prove herself. And and I don't know if that's the best way to really engage in this process or in the dating world at all, because we all have flaws. We are all flawed human beings. We all have things that our partners are going to have to deal with on a regular basis. And Paul needs to see that these corny lines aren't working. He needs to see that he needs to be more curious instead of interrogative, right? So hopefully he learns this. So next we see Precious and Tori, and they also have a pretty good connection. They start off talking about his drink, because he's like, I don't know what this is, and Precious says, I think this is a Romeo and Juliet, and they start talking about that story, which leads them to this conversation where they start talking about their families and how their families are, can impact your relationship. And Precious asks, well, so tell me, like, what kind of advice would your mother give you in a relationship? And then Tori shares that, him and his mother really aren't that close, and she didn't tell him that she loved him until about 4 or 5 years ago. We learned that Tori's mom was in the military for most of his life, and so that is the reason why the distance was there. And then Precious shares that she has never really had her mother in her life, and that they've been estranged for 15 to 20 years, and that she was raised by her aunt. And so they have a connection there. And so they both are really, really feeling each other. So we'll see how it goes. I'm hoping that, these couples don't get too excited by these connections and kind of like make commitments already there. I think to still just be open because the process is new. Still be open and getting to know people. So then Tommy comes back and chats it up with the ladies to see who they're interested in. And Demetrius is on top for most of the ladies. We see the bald and bearded is what they like. And Clifton is up there with the ladies as well. Jakaya said he was a big old teddy bear. Tiffany really liked Wiley. I mean, she smiled pretty big. And Precious said she liked Tori a lot. And Laverne was also up there as well. People who are in the bottom were Fernando. As his conversations, they said weren't engaged and they didn't really feel a connection. And then with P.O., aka Paul, as he's very surfacey, and A said that he was combative and confrontational with her. So Tommy pulls everybody together and dismisses Fernando. And so we hope and wish him the best in his journey to find love. And so then the couple start to mingle again as now the women are on the chopping block and nervous. So we see Joy and Clifton making this nice connection, and they're talking about really just kind of exchanging banter, flirting with each other, saying they're enjoying flirting with each other, talking about what their first date would be, and goat yoga and all of that. And Joy is kind of like open to it, but also saying like, I don't want goat to use the bathroom on me either. And Clifton actually drinks after Joy. I don't know if he knew that, because she said, my lips been all on that. I'm like, why did you say that after he drank off your drink? But he said, hey, even better. So I'm like, during the pandemic, okay, brave souls, wouldn't be me. But he said that his realist and genuine connection is with Joy, and Joy seems to really like Clifton. So we'll see how this goes. Tiffany and Tori. Tori said he's really attracted to her, but their conversations seem to be pretty limited. And he said, she feels guarded and she's kind of hesitant, she said, about her children and who she's going to let in her life. And potentially that could be a factor of why this is happening. Or maybe she's just not connected to Tori as much as she is Wiley. Next, we kind of get to know Laverne a little bit. So Laverne and Sabrina are connecting. Laverne is from Gary, Indiana, and was surprised that Sabrina didn't know why Gary, Indiana is famous. I was also surprised, as the Jackson family is from Gary, Indiana, and I'm like, girl, where you been? But nonetheless, they have a good connection, and then Precious comes to interrupt them. And, they're flirting with each other and connecting. And Precious says she likes his confidence and feels like there's some compatibility there. And that Laverne needs a good woman to get him into shape. And I'm like, I don't know. I think that a part of a relationship can be both. Like the man helps the woman helps the man, and sometimes it can lean, in our culture, it can lean really heavy on the woman shaping the man up, but the man also provide feedback, provide support, and also help the woman to grow as well in the relationship. So, just saying. Then Keena interrupts them, and Laverne. Laverne is kind of intriguing to me. He's sitting there, and all the women are coming to him. So I don't know if he's like trying to protect himself from having to go out and do the work. He's like, I'll just let the women come to me because I know they'll come to me. Like, that's also a thing. Like, he's just interesting. It's very interesting. I was very curious about this choice and how this came to be. Clifton and Dakaya, they try to connect, but then Keena interrupts them and tries to get in their conversation, but Clifton was nice and, and involved her. But then she also said that her head was hurting. I'm like, why didn't you just go get something. I'm sure production had a pill or something for you, so that you can, get better, and then not interrupt people's conversations that are flowing and then you're tired, and it was just a thing. But anyway, so then Tommy comes in and talks back with the gentleman, and Sabrina was at the top for most of the men. Tori and Laverne was stated by Precious, and Clifton named Dakaya, and Demetrius and Clifton talked about Joy, were in their top connections. Keena was named by most in the bottom, and also Ace and Tiffany. And we know Keena was eliminated. So we shall see how this continues to grow. You know that this show has its turns. I'm sure they're going to have more people come in and all that jazz, so we'll see how it goes. I do like the fact that this season seems to be a little bit more laid back than last season, so I'm hoping some of the drama that was there will not be present this season. Thank you guys so much for watching. Of course, subscribe to the channel, like the video to help me out with the algorithm, and see you next week. Peace. Take care.